Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, financial, or investment advice. Information presented is from internet or other news sources. Always do your own research and due diligence. We're not responsible for and expressly disclaim all liability for damages of any kind arising out of use, reference to, or reliance on any information contained in this broadcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Money and Change right here on the Trim Radio Network, better known as trimradio.com. Check us out. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, and a whole bunch of other places, and we go worldwide. Yep, worldwide. So you want to check us out. We've got a lot of good things coming up. And we've got a lot of information to cover today. Hey, how about that storm on the East Coast? We thought it was bad here in the Midwest and in the South. They got hit with a nasty one over on the East Coast. And people over in North and South Carolina have snow like you wouldn't believe. And they don't know what to do with it either. If you weren't prepared for it, you're in trouble. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, besides a lot of financial stuff. So you want to stay tuned. Hey, before we get going, you know, we always have to do shout outs. And if we don't do them, maybe people get in trouble. Nah, we don't. Here's the brain trust of the Trim Radio Network. We have Michael Bejas, who's the founder and CEO. We have Rascala Stefan, who's the chief operating officer and computer guru. And then we have me. I guess I'm the chief relationship officer, and I haven't figured that out yet. I'm supposed to be responsible for building and maintaining the foundational trust and goodwill necessary for long-term success. Well, I hope you stick with us because we've got a lot of good shows. Hey, we also have Victoria Smith, the chief marketing officer, and she's responsible for all marketing activities, brand development, audience growth, and creator acquisition strategies. And hey, if you want to be a part of the Trim Radio Network, all you have to do is go to this little red dot over here on the right-hand side, and you click on it. And you put your name, your phone number, and you put down, I want to know more about being a member of the Trim Radio Network. How do I do my own show? What equipment do I need? Talk to me, please. And give us your cell phone number and your email address too. And then all you have to do is hit send the message. That's all you have to do. It's just hit send the message. And we'll be in touch with you very quickly. We have some spaces to add to our shows, and we've added a couple more, and we're continuing to add on. And just remember, we do go worldwide on the World Wide Web. So, and with that, that's our brain trust right there, the Fab Four of the Trim Radio Network. Now, what else do we have going on? If I'd learned to hit the right buttons, I had some changes just before the show. It about drove me nuts. It did. It really did. We now have our shows, okay? We have the Money and Change show every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Daylight Time. No, not, well, it will be daylight time when we change to it, but it's Eastern time. We have Life Walk with Christ God with Michael Bejas, and that's at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. At 8 o'clock on Wednesdays, we have My World, Live, Laugh, and Whatever. And I will have a guest on this week, and that'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and our guest will be Quentin Kidd, and we will have a good show with that. We're talking about data centers and some of the problems that can arise from having data centers. It's a big thing now. Everybody wants data centers. And we have the Natural Marketer podcast with Victoria Smith. Hey, if you have a sorority, fraternity, club, business, well, if you need marketing advice, just talk to Victoria. She's fantastic. We have Offsides, College Football Top 25 with Michael Bejas and company. We have the Positude Podcast every Friday at 8 p.m. We have Adventure Awaits Around the Bend on Saturdays at 1 p.m. And at 1:30, we have Ranch It Up with Tigger and Beck. You want to check it out. Also, we have the Red Pill Reality Show Saturdays at 9 p.m. till midnight. And that's with Rascalo Stefan, and he does a great show. I listen to it all the time, and I've been on the show a couple times, and it's interesting. It really is. Also, you notice we have 3 blank spots here. Well, actually, we have somebody by the name of Peter Kling, and he doesn't teach. He has a new show called Revelation, and he presents a lot of good information there. I've known Peter for a long time, and we used to do shows together on another network. And I'll tell you what, he's a very good, very intelligent person. You have to listen to Peter Kling, Revelation. Also, we have Dora coming on, and she will be doing Let's Talk About It. And she will have different guests on, and she's going to have a good show. She really is. And so you want to check that out. So those are our shows that we have. If you want to do your own show, let us know. Like I said, hit the red dot. If my mouse, I've been having problems with computers and mice lately. I don't know. Put your name, phone number, and I want to do my own show on Trim Radio, and go ahead and hit send the message, and somebody will get back to you. Wow, how can you help us out? You can advertise with us because our advertising rates are very reasonable. And you can also buy the merchandise. That's right, buy the merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get hats, you can get mugs that have a blank side on them. Well, you know, that's Life Walk with Christ Gods. They got to turn that mug around. We also have the Money and Change t-shirts. We have the travel mugs. They're insulated. They're really good mugs. And we have the ceramic mugs. We have the Offside College Football Top 25 Premium Piqué polo shirt, not pool shirt, polo. And we have that. We have t-shirts. And we go to page 2. And we have children's shirts, we have mugs, and we have hats. We've got round mouse pads. Well, if you have more than one mouse, we have that too. And the Trim Creators dad's hat, we have that. We have beanies, and if you have AirPods and you don't know where to store them, hey, we have those rubber cases for AirPods. You supply the AirPods and buy the case from us. How's that? Wow. That's our goodies. And all the money that we get from selling the merchandise goes directly into airtime, because airtime is not cheap. Trust me. So if you want to advertise with Trim Radio Network, let us know. We have very reasonable rates, and you can contact Victoria Smith or Michael Bejas, and they will set you up. And I'll tell you what, very good rates, and we'll get you international exposure. Okay. Wow. What else is going on? Well, we do have a page which changed on me. Things are going really weird today with the computer. A lot of crazy stuff is going on, but we do have a Facebook page, and that's Money and Change / Financially Prepped. And if you go to the page, you can easily join our group. Just let me know, send me a request, and we'll put you on the list. Now, what do you do when you get on that list? Well, you get on this page, and you get to see our advertisement for the week, which is join me tonight at 7 p.m. for a live edition of Money and Change at trimradio.com. The only time that we have encore editions, or reruns, as some people like to call them, is when I'm playing a concert. and the concert season hasn't even started yet and won't until April. And I think we'll probably have about 6 concerts this spring and summer that I have to be involved in. So, other than that, everything else is going to be live. And what I do at the bottom, if you click on comment, you'll find out everything that we're going to talk about tonight will be listed down here in the comments. Now, we're going to talk about job markets. We're going to talk about tax. We're going to talk about finance and memories, Chinese speculators. We may talk about that. The Bitcoin break below $80,000. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Something about Texas governor and some type of parasites. And we have the storm-related activities and economy in a nutshell. And on and on and on, even SNAP. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that. But we always list that here. And if you want to go back to look at past shows, all you have to do is just continue to scroll down. Also, we put up different videos. We have I Warned About This with Glenn Beck. Gold just hit a dangerous new high. Could change everything. Well, it suddenly did change and it went low. Solvency issues. We talk about that. $850 billion gone. Hey, you better check into that because China just sold all U.S. debt. Whatever they aren't telling you, well, guess what? We told you. And big news about banks and more. So you want to check out our Facebook page, and that is Money and Change / Financially Prepped, okay? It's easy to do. All right, what's going on? Wow. We had those storms coming up a couple of weeks ago, and now we had storms on the East Coast, and it was like a hurricane blizzard bomb. I don't know what you'd call it other than that. But, we talked about being prepared on Wednesday. And we talked about different ways you could prepare for things. How do you prepare for snow? Lots of it. Do you have shovels? Do you have a snow blower? Do you have a company come and clean off your driveway and sidewalks? Or do you have to just go out and do it yourself? And if you're in the South, do you have snow at all? Well, they did this last week. And cold weather, too. Well, anyhow, Jackie Trapp in the Epoch Times had an article on Saturday, and it said over 185,000 Americans were without power nearly 1 week after a deadly winter storm swept through 2/3 of the country. And the states that faced the ongoing power outages were Mississippi, Tennessee, Louisiana, and Texas. Oh, yeah. They got hammered. Anyhow, the article said the northern part of Mississippi had the most outages with nearly 80,000 utility customers in the dark as of 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And officials of the Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association said they weren't sure when the lights would go back. Why? Because they don't basically have a lot of snow and ice in the South. Well, Tennessee experienced the second largest number of outages in the United States. The majority of affected customers resided in the heart of Nashville. Davidson County, which covers a section of Nashville, had over 60,000 people without power as of 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 85% of the outages reported in the state. Nashville Electric Service said that the ice storm was worse than they expected and added that the provider has never had to deal with the damage from a system like Winter Storm Fern. Well, they said when we look at the trees that have exploded, when we drive around the community and we're still working to get the restoration done, we have to see how severe this was, said Brent Baker of the Nashville Electric Service. And he was the chief operations officer. And delays restoring the power have caused multiple groups and agencies to step up and help residents impacted. Well, soldiers with the Tennessee Army National Guard's 212th Engineer Company were called out to the streets of Nashville to remove debris and assist with road clearance on Friday. And you can see what ice does to trees. It breaks off limbs. The limbs fall on power lines. And then the power lines cause problems with transformers. The transformers explode and we have problems, right? Well, that's what happened. Now, down in Louisiana, they had over 32,000 outages by 5 p.m. And Governor Jeff Landry said, I've been in Washington, D.C., working side by side with federal and local officials to secure the resources and support Louisiana needs. And with more severe weather hitting our state, I am cutting my trip short and heading home now to continue leading our response efforts on the ground. Stay safe. And I'll tell you what, had he stayed in Washington, I think he would have caught a lot of flack. But it caused a lot of problems. And then just after that, then we had the cold hit Florida. And I've got friends in Florida, and they had weather that was like 49 degrees today and have been down to around 30 degrees earlier. And they're not prepared for cold weather. Trust me. I've been down there when it was cool, and I saw ladies walking around in Publix markets wearing full-length fur coats because it was 65 degrees outside. We just had light jackets on. They're just not prepared down there. Well, how do you stay prepared for things? Well, you know, the storm went up the East Coast, and it really laid into South Carolina, North Carolina, and on up. And I'll tell you what, you want to check with the American Red Cross, because if you go to redcross.org, they have a prep list for winter storms and how to plan to stay warm, plan to stay connected, and gathered emergency supplies. And they tell you what you really need to have. Now, one thing I always talk to people about, GMRS radios, because these radios will keep you in touch during an emergency. People say, oh, we don't need those things. Yeah, you do. If the phone lines don't work, your internet's out, you need a GMRS radio. $35 gets you a license for 10 years from the FCC. There's no test, and anybody in your family can use it. It's a good deal, trust me. Not only is it a hobby, but it's also good for communications during an emergency, okay? I have a couple, and I'll tell you what. I talk to people different times during the day and night, and if anything happens, I can find out how bad the snow is in the different locations I'm talking to. I can get out 35 miles with that antenna and that radio to a repeater in Dayton, Ohio, and I can get out for 90 miles beyond that. And under very good conditions, I can go a little bit farther. So you can stay in touch during an emergency, but you have to have a radio to do it. Not everybody is going to be a ham operator. Let's face it. And the GMRS is the next best thing. Now, you have that. You have plenty of batteries. You have water good enough for 3 gallons per person per day. Make sure that you have batteries for all of your battery-powered devices. Your, well, you might as well just say, I was going to say clocks. Yeah, you need batteries in the clocks. You need batteries for radios. You need batteries and lights. You know, you have to have a lot of different things. Flashlights. I mean, trust me, you have to be prepared in an emergency. And some of the stuff that you would have for a hurricane, if you're down on the coast, you could use during one of these snow bombs, as I'm going to call them. Okay. And you want to brush up on your skills, okay? And then here's what to do during one of those storms to stay safe and stay 3 feet, basically 1 meter from the heat source. Avoid using candles because of the fire risk, and use battery powered lights and flashlights instead. Prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. You have to watch out for that. If you think you're getting dizzy or whatever, get to fresh air right away. Don't even delay that. Act fast if you see signs of frostbite or hypothermia. If your hands go numb and they're cold, get them warmed up as quickly as you can. Okay. What to do afterwards? Stay safe. If you need to go outside, use extreme caution when driving or walking on ice. Avoid damage or faltered or fallen power lines. And of course, they can electrocute you very quickly. Be aware of branch, trees, ice that may fall. Avoid overexertion when shoveling snow, and take frequent breaks. Use ice melting products to keep your sidewalk safe. And then go to a public library, or shopping mall, or a warming center if you become too cold. And you have to take care of yourself, okay? You can call that 1-800 number, 800-985-5990. Check them out. American Red Cross. And there is a link. Okay. Wow, what else is going on? Oh, yeah, the U.S. debt clock. Boy, the politicians keep spending money. Boy, do they spend money. And then it goes out to different groups who take their money and send it overseas. I think everybody's taking a cut. And the way it's looking right now, they're going to start bringing that out in some of the most recent news. But our U.S. national debt is $38,683,342,000,000 and climbing. Now it just went to 343 million. And the debt per U.S. citizen is $112,788. I don't know about you, but I don't think I can write a check for that. Now the debt per taxpayer is $355,811. All because Congress overspends. They spend like a drunken sailor. Only drunken sailors know when to quit because they run out of money. But Congress, all they do is just print it. Take a look at usdebtclock.org, because it tells you the biggest budget items. For example, Medicare, Medicaid. It's like $1,934,479,000,000 and climbing. Social Security, $1,609,618,000,000 and climbing. Interest on debt. Wow. We have 987,239,839 for it's going so fast. Interest. We're paying interest on our debt. Check it out, usdebtclock.org. You can check it out per state or for the US. There's a lot of data there. There really is. What else is going on? The US economy in a nutshell. A few winners and everybody else loses ground. Yeah, you go to the grocery store lately, prices are up. Prices aren't going down. And when they do go down, it will be for things like vegetables, because the vegetables right now that we're getting are grown out of the country. And so they have to be imported for the most part. And if they're not damaged by the bad weather, the cold weather, that'll be a miracle. But anyhow, Charles Hugh Smith of Two Minds blog had an article. It says maybe this arrangement isn't as stable as sustainable as the winners imagine. And he said, here's the U.S. economy in a nutshell. Corporate state concentrations of financial market and political power are the winners, and everybody else outside these fortresses is losing ground. And he said the Wall Street Journal is generally viewed as pro-business and is partially striking when the Wall Street Journal is published. And it goes on to talk about things. And it says, in other words, the small circle of winners and the larger circle of those losing ground describes both households and enterprises. Small businesses lacking the concentrated financial or political power to exercise monopoly cartel control of the market and protect their fiefdom by buying political influence are in steep decline, and this is in good times. Yeah, we're getting in rough times. As in the household sector, the winners are doing splendidly while everybody else loses ground. Oh, yeah? Try buying a house. The interest rates are up. The cost of housing is out of sight. The quasi monopolies and cartels of corporate America reign supreme, and they do. And the top 10% of households are also doing extremely well, but then the rest of us, we are paying through the nose for, in some cases, gasoline, propane, natural gas. I don't know about you, but my natural gas bill this last month was $146 for a ranch style house. And my temperature was at 71 degrees. Now, with all this cold weather outside, I think my next bill is going to be over $200. And I can't wait for summertime because I don't really want to run the air conditioning that much with bills like that coming. Okay. It's getting rough out there, guys. Okay, well, hey, why the job market doesn't look healthy? They're saying it doesn't. Watch this.
Don't want to get your take and your response to Governor Christopher Waller, because he made some news today. This got attention, explaining his dissent, Laura, right? Why he wanted another cut, actually. Waller does not like what he sees at all with the labor market. He says the unemployment rate has risen since the middle of last year. He talks about payroll gains in 2025 were very weak, he says. Ends here with, this does not remotely look like a healthy labor market. What do you say to Governor Waller there?
I agree with that last part in terms of it doesn't look like a healthy labor market, and let me explain why. Really, if you look at the growth that we saw in the labor market in 2025 and the number of jobs that were added, around 70% of all jobs added in 2025 were in healthcare alone. And so if you're a healthcare worker, R&D data shows that if you work in sectors, certainly in healthcare, but also in engineering, also in construction, a few other sectors, the labor market still probably feels pretty good. But in some of the larger sectors like business and professional services, which is a very large sector and lost jobs in 2025 in the payroll employment data, we also see that a lot of positions in that sector are soft. And especially in the tech sector, many tech jobs are soft as well.
This is the story of the one.
Oh,
As a
no.
lineman gets busy.
I get all kinds of stuff going on today. I think the internet's driving me nuts, but it's true. You get out there and you take a look at the way the businesses are right now. And some people are working 2 and 3 jobs just to survive. And it's a rough deal out there, and especially for seniors. They only get so much on Social Security, and we're going to be talking about a raise in Social Security. But, they raise here and then they take it out in taxes. But anyhow, you're working these jobs just to survive. And then you get taxed and everything. It's a crazy cycle. It's like you're just working yourself to death to exist. And some people are sort of lucky enough and they had a decent job and they retired and they have savings. That's great. But if they don't, there's a big problem. And the job market out there, if you want to get in food service industry, yeah, but that's such low paying jobs. If you want to get into manufacturing, well, a lot of our manufacturing is overseas. Eventually it will come back. But those jobs are going to be technical, and artificial intelligence is going to take care of part of them. So the job market is going to be tense. It's going to be very competitive. And you have to have the skills. If you have to go back to school to get skills, you're going to have to do it. And there are training programs available for you. You just have to look into it. Wow. What else is going on? Well, let's see if we can get out of this one and go to our next one here. Remember I talked about retirees? Well, here's one for retirees.
It's time for Yahoo Finance's Market Minute. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ point to another down session here for tech stocks. U.S. stocks sliding as President Trump nominates Kevin Warsh to lead the Federal Reserve. That's a backdrop of a rising dollar and tumbling gold. Unity Software, Roblox, and Take-Two Interactive all sliding after Google unveils Project Genie, the early research prototype that lets users create a world, build a character, and explore a landscape that builds itself in real time around you. Prototype is currently available to Google AI Ultra subscribers in the US.
Wow. Hey, you know, I had this all planned and laid out, and the retiree thing was there. I can't believe it. This computer, I swear, there are bugs out there. I mean, I debug my computer probably twice a week to make sure I don't have any malware, but something is involved with the internet today. I've noticed a bunch of weird things happening, not only with Facebook, but also in other things that I've seen on YouTube and other places. Wow. Well, anyhow, you know, we're supposed to get more money for retirees, but just remember what they give you, they take away in taxes. Wouldn't it be nice if we just got a good amount of money in retirement that we're supposed to get? You know, when I retired, I got a notice because you work for the state and private industry. We're only going to give you $250 a month. Well, I should be getting the full amount. And then just recently, I get a notice, oh, surprise, you're getting, I think it was $750. Well, I should have gotten that $750 for the last 15 years, but I didn't. Politicians have a way of doing things and taking your money, and I kind of feel affronted with that. Well, anyhow, SNAP work requirements, they're new ones. The rules start September 1st, which is today in multiple states. And Naveen Anthropoli at the Epoch Times came up with this story. And the new work requirements to gain or continue eligibility for the Federal Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, better known as SNAP, will start being implemented in several U.S. states beginning February 1st. And one big, beautiful bill act signed into law by President Donald Trump in July instituted new work requirements for SNAP beneficiaries to continue receiving benefits targeting able-bodied adults with dependents. And you take a look at what they have on that sign. It says EBT food stamp. We accept EBT food stamps. But the top part's in Russian. I couldn't tell you what that says. Can you imagine that? It's got to be in an area where there are a lot of Russian immigrants or descendants. And I'll tell you what, when I was in Cleveland, Ohio, doing training close to the Cleveland Clinic, I went to a couple of different stores, and believe it or not, they had Russian signs in front. And they were, you know, Rite Aid drugstores or, you know, CVS or others. And part of their clientele happened to be Russians. And you would go in there to get something, and of course it would all be American stuff for the most part, but then you would hear people speaking Russian or broken Russian and English. And I would stop in there and get something and then head back to the hotel or head back on the job site. And it was interesting. And one of the security guards that I met over the course of time had to learn Russian because some of the clients in this facility spoke Russian. It was interesting. But to see those signs and the new SNAP rules, that's something else, okay? Anyhow, according to the rules, people ages 18 to 54 are required to meet these conditions to receive SNAP benefits for more than 3 months in a 3-year period, according to the Food and Nutrition Service. Able-bodied adults without dependents, ABAWD, I don't know how you pronounce that. Well, anyhow, must meet any of the following conditions: work at least 80 hours a month, participate in a work program for this duration, take part in a combination of work and work program hours for 80 hours a month at a minimum, or remain in a work fair for the required number of hours assigned each month. Millions of use SNAP benefits despite being able to work, compromising the true goal of the program, which is to provide financial support for vulnerable people who need help. And the implementation dates of the SNAP work requirements vary from state to state. So you want to check that out. You really do want to check that out. Now, there's a debate over the new policy. The new work requirements for ABAWDs have faced criticism. And in October 21st, there was a statement that an advocacy group, National Skills Coalition, argued that the measure undermined workers. Such requirements punish people for systemic barriers outside their control. And losing out on SNAP benefits can make it harder for people to focus on their training or show up for work. So moreover, enforcing work requirements places a heavy administrative burden on the states and workers. And human services agencies must notify recipients of the new requirements, verify the work hours, track compliance, and process exemptions. And in each of these activities, there is room for error that can have devastating consequences for workers, according to the National Skills Coalition. They also said over the past decade, millions of able-bodied adults have been added to the SNAP program. Some of them do not work at all or work inconsistently throughout the year, according to the officials. Well, it's a requirement. And since it's a requirement, you have to follow the rules or you end up losing SNAP. Okay? So you want to check with your local service agency to see that you qualify. They'll probably send you notification. Wow, how about renting a new home? Would you like to do that? Well, guess what? We have one here.
Now, I asked if the Journal had some good stats on this. They said over 320,000 built-to-rent homes built since 2012. And most of that is coming in just the last 5 years. So how big is the sector, Bruce? And how fast will it grow from here, do you think?
Yeah, so it's growing very fast. People like the idea of renting a brand new house. I mean, what's better to rent than a brand new house? They stay longer, they get ingrained in the community, and it really benefits the community by bringing new business and new people to the communities. Business is going to continue to boom. There's going to be tens of thousands of more houses built every year in the build-to-rent sector, and most of this is done in the Smile States, the Southeast, Texas, and Southwest. But we're starting to see build-to-rent in places like Indianapolis and other cities throughout the country. This is not something that is just regionally located. It's now moving across the country, and it's just a great thing for people that now have a chance to choose another asset, another way to rent a house. or rent a property, and it's much better than an apartment complex and some other opportunities and some other choices that people have.
You said something there, Bruce. I just want to pull on for a second. As a homeowner myself, I am very interested in what's going on in my community, right? Like, I want to know what's going on with the community, with the local schools for my kid. And I'm involved to that point, Bruce, because I'm not going anywhere for a long time. We're there. We put down roots. And I'm just curious, do you think that is the same with people who are opted for a built to rent model?
Josh, it is. The average person stays in an apartment roughly 2 years. The average folks that stay in a built to rent house is between 4 and 5 years. So you actually have people that stay longer, that get more ingrained in the community. They do business with businesses in the community. And yeah, you're seeing a lot of people stay longer. And when they stay longer, they usually will buy a house when they're ready. If they're ready, if they want to, in that same community. So it does have a spillover effect where it's helping people buy houses when they're ready to rent. This is really a hybrid, Josh. It's the difference between when you look at an apartment complex or owning a home, we're right in the middle. We're right in the middle. And so this is a stepping stone for a lot of people before home ownership.
Who is your customer, Bruce? I'm curious. What's the average demo? Can you give me some line of sight there? And has that shifted? Like, is it different than if I'd asked you, Bruce, a year ago or 3 years ago?
When I got in the business, people rented out of necessity. Now many people rent out of choice. Our average tenant makes $126,000 a year. They have a credit score in the mid 600s, and they're college educated in their 30s. These are people that could buy houses or could buy houses in the future. They just choose not to. Maybe they're new to a city. Maybe they just got married. Maybe they have some debt they want to pay off. But our average tenant makes over $100,000 a year, and they have good credit scores.
How big?
Good credit scores, huh? I'll tell you what. I don't know about you, but you take a look at the average income in $100,000 a year, not where I live. Now, I know some people who make a lot less than that. I know people that make a lot more than that. Matter of fact, I know some multimillionaires, but I'm not one of them. I'm retired. And I'll tell you what, you have to watch what you can do. Luckily, I bought my house over 25 years ago, and I live in the same house. And it's a ranch style house. It's in a decent neighborhood. I like the people I'm associated with here in our area, and it's great. Would I go back to renting a place? No. I would not go back and rent anything. Now, if I was moving into a community and it was either living in an apartment that you really can't control things, or having a condo where you have to abide by a lot of rules and you don't like that, and you want to rent a house, that's fine. But look at the cost of the rental. A lot of apartments now go for anywhere from $1,700 a month up to $2,500 a month. And that would be either in a duplex or a multi-unit facility. And some can even go higher than that. So how many people would have the money to rent a house? Because of that rent is going to be a lot higher. Something you have to consider. And I'll tell you what, it's nice after the house is paid off, because then you don't owe anything. The only thing you have to do is upkeep. And it gets expensive when you need to put a new HVAC system in or a new roof or whatever. But it's still, you have your own property where you can make your own rules because you live there, right? Just something to consider. I don't know if I'd run a house. I don't know if I would want to rent houses, because you can't control what damage you get. Because some renters can be rather Nasty. Wow, what else is going on? Let's see what else we've got here. I know we've talked to these guys. How about this one? How to know when you're buying a house is right for you. Listen to this.
Thing question for you. I'm sure there's some viewers watching right now, Gene, and they're wondering, should I rent or should I buy? What is the smart way to think through that financial decision, Gene?
I'm a big fan of home ownership. I love the idea that when you get to the end of the road and you get to retirement, you will have something close to a paid off mortgage that provides you with another stash of cash that you can use for living expenses or other expenses in retirement. But you don't want to buy unless you know that you're going to be in that home for at least 5, maybe even 7 years. You want to make sure that you've got enough time to absorb the cost of a move, that you've got enough time to make the transaction work for you. And if you believe that you'll be moving within that window, renting can make sense. Renting can also make sense depending on where you're living, the housing stock in that area. It's a really tight housing market right now, and renting does economically look as if it's a better deal in some scenarios.
Gene, I'm sure there's some folks watching right now and they want to buy a home. Right now, it's not realistic, but that's the dream. Long term, Gene, what are some smart, but also realistic tips to save for that dream? And are there also, Gene, programs that maybe you can tap into and leverage for that?
Yeah, 100%. So the only way to save successfully in my book is to save automatically. You set up a separate account for this down payment. You move money into it every single time you get paid. You bank your windfalls. If you get a tax refund, if you get a bonus, if you get money at the holidays, just move that money into that account and start watching it grow. Put it in a high yield savings account so that it is working for you at least a little bit. And then start exploring the first time homebuyer programs in your area. Many states have programs. The FHA has programs. The VA has programs. There is a lot of money out there that goes untapped for first-time homebuyers because they don't understand that they may be eligible for down payment assistance, for lower interest rate loans, and for a lot of other things that can help them get into that first home. The government is in favor of home ownership. That's something that we clearly heard and will continue to hear, but some of these resources are just far too unexplored right now.
This is the story of the
Oh,
one.
no.
As a lineman, it's his job to keep the power on. That's why he chooses Grainger for professional.
I hate ads. I get to set this stuff up, and then all of a sudden I get a whole bunch of ads. It's disgusting. It really is. Well, anyhow, let's see what else we've got, because we've got just a few minutes to cover a few things. And what we don't cover, if you go to Money and Change /financially prepped on Facebook, go down to the comment section, you will see the rest. So let's see what else we've got going here. Well, definitely not talking about Grainger. It's a good company, though. We used to get a lot of stuff working with the state of Ohio. Oh, in Texas, I got to tell you about this one. Oh, yeah, Texas governor issues disaster declaration over the spread of a parasitic screwworm. Would they be saying down there, y'all been screwed? Well, anyhow, Jack Phillips of the Epoch Times came up with this one. It said Texas Governor Greg Abbott on Thursday said he imposed a statewide disaster declaration to prevent the spread of a type of parasitic fly in his state. The New World screwworm isn't yet present in the United States or Texas, although officials say that it's been spreading towards the U.S. Mexico border, and Abbott said it can cause potential problems for U.S. livestock industry if it spreads northward across the border. State law authorities authorizes me to act to prevent a threat of infestation that could cause severe damage to Texas property, and I will not wait for such harm to reach the livestock and wildlife, Governor Abbott said. The disease declaration allows him to mobilize Texas New World Screwworm Response Team, fully utilize all state government prevention and response resources to prevent the reemergence of this destructive parasite. Now, screwworms can infect livestock, wildlife, and people. Health and agriculture authorities have said the insect's maggots can burrow into the skin, inflicting serious and in some cases fatal damage to an organism. So you want to be careful around screwworms. And here's the larvae. I don't think I would want to be around those, and I don't know how they prevent them. They must use some type of an insecticide or whatever. The screwworms were previously found in the United States, but were eradicated in 1966. The USDA said officials also eliminated a small outbreak reported in the Florida Keys in 2017. We don't want to mess with screwworms, so hopefully they can get that taken care of. Hey, Bitcoin's break below 80,000. Remember, it was almost up to 100,000 for Bitcoin. And I always told people, if you want to invest in Bitcoin, go right ahead and do it, except for one thing. You can't touch it. You can't see it. It's only electronic ones and zeros. You have an electronic wallet to put it in. And if somebody gets into that wallet, you're in trouble. And, they say, oh, well, it's easy to do that now. Yeah, right. Just tell them Mount Gox, Gox. A lot of people lost a lot of money on that one. Oh, what's we got? Oh, tax season. Oh, we do have to listen about tax season. We do have to.
Still puzzling American filers. There are several new tax rules, too, largely coming from President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Emma Ackerman joins me to unpack what you need to know before your taxes are due on April 15th. Emma, what do I need to know?
A lot. I mean, filing your taxes has never been accused of being easy, but like you said, with the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act last year, there are a lot of new provisions to consider. So some of those can, save you some money down the line. One, you've got an increase to the standard deduction. We've also got a new deduction.
Oh, and now it goes into running. Something is wrong with stuff today. I don't know what's going on with the internet. But anyhow, they've got deductibles introduced for tips and overtime work, boosted child tax credit, raised deduction cap on state and local tax. That's SALT, S-A-L-T. So they do have that. So you want to check out the tax season in 2026. You have to do that. And too bad we couldn't play the rest of this thing. This goes into it like an endless loop timeout type thing. I don't know what's going on with the internet. Well, anyhow, it's a network issue. Okay, well, that I can understand because it's been that way all day long. It must have to do with stuff on the East Coast. That's all I can say. Oh, like I tell everybody, every show, pay down your debt. Don't get in debt for everything. Pay down your debt. Put some money aside. You need emergency money. Maybe your car needs repair. Maybe your house needs a new roof, whatever. An emergency fund is easy to set up, maybe $25 a week, $50 a week. Put it in a separate account, savings account, and don't touch it until you absolutely need to. And it's an emergency. Buy some long-term food. Make sure that you get your medications. Make sure you can purify and store water, 3 gallons per person per day. That's the minimum. Make sure you have the clothing for the season. Make sure that you have your medications. Make sure that you have things like, gee whiz, batteries, all different types of batteries for the devices you have. Make sure that you have maybe backup solar batteries. Those are always nice to have. Other sources of power, you need to do that. You need to have those blue tarps for your roof. And I have at least 3, if not 4, that I keep in a storage shed just in case I have a leak on a roof or a window breaks out or something. I have something to take care of it. But be prepared. And that's one thing that people in the South and the people in the East Coast are realizing it, because if they had been prepared for this storm, then everything would have been fairly decent. Now, I'll tell you what, you have to have food, and the food can be canned food or freeze-dried food. Make sure you have a power source to run your freezers and refrigerators, and don't go opening the doors very often on them, and they'll hold their temperature for about 24 hours. But be prepared. Well, hey guys, with that, that's all I've got this week. Check with us on Wednesday for My World, because we're going to have Quentin Kidd will be our guest person, and he will be talking about data centers and everything that's associated with that, the good, bad, and the ugly. Okay. And so we'll be talking about that on Wednesday at 8 p.m. right here on the Trim Radio Network. See ya. Have a good week.